Hello everybody and welcome back to another video. In this video, we're going to be vibe coding with the new MiniMax M2 model. As you guys can see here on the web dev leaderboard, if you just draw your attention to this here, what you're going to see is that now in 5th place, there's a new model called MiniMax M2. And there's a couple things that I'm going to touch on about this new model. One, you can see that it does beat the GLM 4.6 model. It also beats out Gemini 2.5 Pro, and it's not too far off from GPT-5 High or Claude Opus 4.1. So with that being said, let's go over to OpenRouter, and I'm going to tell you, number one, how to set this up with Cursor, as well as a little bit about the actual cost and prices for this model. So one of the big things about this model is it's very affordable. So it has a 204,000 context, and it costs 25 cents per million input tokens and $1 per million on the output. So that makes it cheaper than any of these frontier models. It makes it cheaper than GPT-5, obviously cheaper than Opus, and not too far off when you actually put it in the rankings. So very interested to try this model. Big shout out to some of the members of the Bridgewine community, J35, as well as Max. They were both basically recommending this model, and J35 helped me figure out how to get that set up using OpenRouter. So by default in Cursor, this model is not offered. So if you go over to your Cursor settings and you go over to models, this model needs to be set up in a custom way. That means that you're going to have to use OpenRouter, and then how you set that up is that once you get an API key from OpenRouter, you can put your API key in this field here, and then you also drop in the base URL for OpenRouter. So you can see that I have https openrouter.ai/API/v1. You enable that, then you toss in your API key, you enable that, and then you're able to integrate with the model by just doing, you can do view all models, and then at the bottom, it's going to allow you to add a custom model. And then I've already added it, but to add a custom model, after you've done that, you just copy the name of it in OpenRouter, and then you can go back over and you can actually paste it in. And then once you click add, it's now able to use that model. But we've already enabled it, so you can see over here in Cursor, you can see that I have the MiniMax M2 model enabled. So we're going to be using that on View Creator here to test it out. Give it some different tasks to do. But with that being said, let's just dive right into it. And we're going to do, I like to give it a couple of UI things. Like for example, let's just take note of this div here and notice how bad the styling is here on mobile, right? Or smaller compacted screens. Review the screenshot and fix the issues that you can see with the wrapping and the responsiveness on smaller screen sizes for this recent activity component. Instead of mashing quick actions and recent activity together, you can stack them, improve the styling of the page. And then what I'll do is I can then just drop in the URL, and let's actually, I think that I use the browser to review. So let's see if it actually can do browser tools as well. This will be a good test. Oh wait, what did it say? Oh, it doesn't support images. Okay, that's good to know. Okay, so this this model does not support images. So that does make a difference. If you can't drop images into the model, if the model can't see, that does affect some things. However, what this model could be better at, you could look at models like Claude models, for example, and say, hey, Claude models are inherently better at styling than some of the other models on the market, right? Well, this model could end up being used for different tasks. Maybe it's large tasks that are heavy in logic, that use a lot of tokens. Obviously, the trade-off for the cost of the model is going to be incredible. I know that a lot of people have been liking the GLM 4.6 model, but very interested to see how MiniMax does, because MiniMax is actually, I believe, cheaper than GLM 4.6 and ranks higher on the AI arena. So very interested there. But let's let that update on its own. Let's launch another MiniMax agent, and let's just have it do a complete review of the user onboarding system. And now I'm going to add the View Creator API, and I'm going to add the View Creator UI. Come back to me with a report and improvements that we can enable. So let's drop that agent in, and then I'm going to add the View Creator UI again, and I'm going to say review the Sentry setup on this branch is Sentry used in the project? Okay, at view creator UI. So I'm launching a bunch of agents. How would we set up, what's it called? Post hog in this project. Do not update any code, but create a plan. And then how does it do? Does it just have an agent? Yeah, so it does have an agent. You can see here that there is an error here. It looks like what caused that. Let's see. Let's go to the API. Is the API down? So it looks like the API is down. I wonder what did that. Let's drop this in. Fix this error that you are seeing in the API. So let's see how fast that's able to fix it. Because another thing that's important about these models, you know, is the speed. We could turn on. Can we turn on max mode for this? I mean, I'm interested to see. I wonder if max mode does anything when it's not an actual Cursor model, right? Like if it's not a model that's offered by Cursor, I don't think that putting it in max mode does anything. I don't know if anybody in chat knows, but you can let me know in the comments down below. So let's just see, how did it do on this? So it did actually make a pretty big improvement to that wrapping issue that we had. So as you guys know, I dropped in that initially, and it did a pretty good job. It now, that quick actions and the recent activity are like stacked, and I like that look better. So we have the connect socials, the brand profiles. This is looking pretty good. How about this? Make substantial styling improvements and modernization improvements to the sidebar. Let's just see what this does, right? Let's just test the styling, because I think that, you know, one thing that's always very interesting is, hey, how do these models do when you ask it to style things, you know? So I just asked it to make modernizations to the sidebar. Let's see what it comes up with, right? I mean, the thing that about, you know, the difference between when you're vibe coding on API logic versus, you know, UI logic is the UI logic you can obviously see very quickly. So for our purposes for this video, I want to kind of do a couple UI changes to see, okay, how does this model actually do in the UI? You can see that it already did the recent activity and the quick actions, which looks a lot better. I mean, I like the dashboard. The dashboard looks good. Let's see what it does to the sidebar here. So it said, I'll modernize and enhance the sidebar styling with contemporary design improvements. Let me create a more sophisticated and visually appealing version. So I'm very interested to see what this comes back with. And I'm ready to revert if needed, is all I got to say. We'll revert this as needed, but I'm very interested to see this because, you know, a very interesting thing is that, you know, as these models get better, they are starting to get a lot cheaper. So, you know, when you have a model like MiniMax, I mean, what's crazy is that this MiniMax model is way better than GPT-4 was. You know, and GPT-4 was way more expensive. I think GPT-4 was what, like $15 per million input or something like that? And then now in 2025, you have models that are better than GPT-4, and they're a 15th or a 10th of the cost. So I just want to put that in perspective for everybody about the trajectory of this technology is that, yeah, this is insane. The fact that we're using a model that's this sophisticated and this inexpensive is incredible. Look what it said. It said model failed to call the tool with correct arguments. That's interesting. So, you know, when it's not a Cursor integrated model, there's probably going to be stuff like that. So, you know, like I said at the initial part of the video, you know, this MiniMax M2 model is not offered out of the box by Cursor. You actually have to connect it yourself using OpenRouter, or if you wanted to connect it to, you know, MiniMax itself. OpenRouter is probably the easiest way to do it, but, you know, probably going to have issues like that. Let's see on this. What happened here? So is provide an export by auth module. Okay, so did it fix that dependency issue? Yeah, it did. Okay, so it fixed that issue very quickly, which is nice. Let's now see the screenshots. Okay, it did improve that. What about the one that we passed in about reviewing I literally lost it in Cursor. Where'd it go? Fix API error issue. Okay, it looks like that did update. Set open platform false. Okay. All right. So I've got some errors here, but let's see if it's able to fix them. Because somebody in the chat last night during the stream was saying that MiniMax was running for like 45 minutes for them, which is insane. I mean, that's pretty impressive. Let's see this. Fix the error you created I will say not a super, super fast model. This model definitely is not as fast as like Composer 1. Composer 1 is obviously going to fly through stuff. It's updating my global CSS. I'm very interested to see what it's trying to update in my global CSS because obviously this is a very, very significant file. It's an important file because it holds some of those global styles. So very interested to see what is it doing in my global CSS because this is an important file. Where even is it? Yeah, so it's in the right file. It's in globals. Planning next move. Okay, so it said, what did it do? Enhanced sidebar style. So it added glass morphism utilities for modern sidebar effects. Glass morphism? I don't even know what that is. Glass dark, sidebar scroll. So it added a ton of logic to the sidebar for globals. It didn't pick up on this error that created. So, one thing I will say about models like Codex, like GPT-5 Codex probably would not have had this error. What Codex does is usually at the end of its analysis or at the end of its work on something, it will go back and be able to run a lint on the file that it updated. So usually it'll do something like what MiniMax just did, but then it'll go through after to check, hey, are there any lint errors that I created that I didn't identify initially? But look at this. So this created a huge mess. Let's run npm run dev and see if we can refresh this. Yeah, so very interesting here. So it did cause an issue here with our project. It's trying to run npm run build here. Was that running because it ran an npm run build though? Let's see. So it says it's ready. Duplicate page. Okay. So let's see our new sidebar. What do you guys think? How does it look when it's shrunk? Yeah, I don't know, guys. I don't know about that. Because look at this. I mean, it's nice to do the UI changes because it allows you to pick up on things. Let's actually, hold on. Let's hide this. But look at this. One thing that I noticed, it did make this a lot better. This is a lot better. Do you guys see this pop out here? This pop out is much, much better. I don't know if we could compare and contrast that, but a couple things that I noticed is that, for example, the credits now got made much larger, but then the responsiveness of it is just not that great, right? So let's see if we can drop this in. And this is another benefit of Cursor now, is that with Cursor, you're able to drop in actual div elements. It's a huge new feature of Cursor. They did a great job with this feature, but you can now do select element, and then you can just select the specific element that you want. This does not look good when the sidebar is collapsed. Let's see what it's able to do there. Also, another issue that I am recognizing is that this here, these just are not centered. Okay, this is not centered. So I want to see, can we get this so that it's we can select it and then make it centered. Like let's see here, the divs. So the div for what is that even called? It's the div. Okay. The icon for the platform tools is not centered properly when the sidebar is collapsed. Review the logic and ensure that everything is centered proportionally and responsive. So we can send that off. So just a couple centering issues and responsive issues. There we go. That's nice. Look at that. So that was a second shot. That looks really good. I really like that. I wonder if it would be possible. Oh, man, I mean, it actually did do a pretty good job, guys. So a little things that it didn't pick up on, but you can follow up pretty quickly on your second shot. Let's see if it's able to center this much better. So we have the light mode, dark mode. Let's see if it fixes this. So we're looking at this lightning bolt icon, and we want to see this centered here in a second. Because as you can see, when it's collapsed, it's just not quite centered. So interested to see, with a model that can't take in images, the hard part about models that can't take in images is you can't provide images as reference. So if this was on a Claude model, or I was using Codex, I would drop in both the HTML element. So I would select it like that, right? And then I would pass in the screenshot. So now you can see now it has another issue. So it did make an update. It changed its logic around, but now we have these two at the bottom. Oh, it did fix them. There we go. Okay. All right, so it did get it. It perfectly centered everything. All right, I spoke too soon. It was able to get it, so that's impressive. Okay, now let's try. Can you make the links in the sidebar just a little bit more compact and add better separation so it makes it easily readable? So let's just kind of test this out. Like, is it creative? We want it to be more compact. Also, something that I like that it's doing is that it's running npm run build after every time that it makes updates, and it's ensuring, hey, did I create any type issues or type errors with the updates that I just made? And it's doing that without even me asking. So that's kind of nice. So let's add this now. Let's see if we can polish this and finish up. And what I want is I want everything to just be a little bit more compact, because we don't want a sidebar that when you load it in, you know, it's like already off the page and people are like, oh my gosh, I have a massive sidebar, right? We want to simplify it. We want to make it a little bit more compact. Is it possible to make it so that the vertical scroll bar here that you guys are seeing on the right, can we just make it so compact that there's no need for that unless like you're on like a super small mobile screen? You know what I mean? So I will say, for cost, definitely something to consider. I'm impressed, okay? I'm impressed with what I've seen so far. Just with some of these UI updates, you know, in these videos, it's harder to do a bunch of like API updates just because they're not as visual. So sometimes when I'm testing out models, it's nice to do a couple UI features because it allows you to see, okay, like, wow, look at that, guys. Nice. That's nice. So did you see what it did? So now it has navigation and then account-related items. Wow, that's impressive. So it was able to come up with, you know, a pretty unique thing here, and it did make everything more compact, so you guys can see that there's no more scroll bar. So I really like this. One thing can we do? I mean, look at that. Wow, the active effects look really good as well. I mean, guys, I'm very, very impressed right now. What else could we test out? I feel like the styling is actually incredibly good. I wasn't expecting that, to be honest, but when you consider the cost, I mean, this is cheaper than Composer 1. I mean, let's go back and kind of just talk about this a little bit because I am impressed. So MiniMax M2, you can integrate it with Cursor using OpenRouter. And, you know, back, like I said, 25 cents per million input and then $1.02 on million for outputs. So I'm pretty sure this is a Chinese model, but very impressed. And then on the benchmarks, when did this model come out? When did MiniMax M2 come out? So is this like a super new model? I guess not. I guess it's been around since October 27th. But I don't know why this just started like coming onto the scene now, because this is pretty good, especially for the price. So what does GLM 4.6 cost? So if we go to OpenRouter, let's look up what GLM 4.6 costs. And so remember, 25 cents and then $1. So yeah, so MiniMax is a lot cheaper. It's about, on the inputs, it's 15 cents cheaper per million. And then on the outputs, it's 75 cents cheaper on the outputs, or I guess 73. But that does make a difference. For those of you that are cost conscious, I would definitely say that this is a BridgeMind approved model, MiniMax M2. You know, I think that you do have to consider the fact that you can't drop in images, but very impressed. We just did some simple UI stuff, but I'm going to be using this on stream today for sure, because it's just such an affordable model, and it did do a good job. Like, I just like the creativity of it. Maybe we can try one more thing. Use a completely different icon package that is more modern for the sidebar icons, and pick out more professional icons for the sidebar. Let's try this out. Let's see if it's able to intuitively get that, because I mean, like, look at this. Platform Tools is a lightning bolt. Like, really? I mean, I don't know what model did that, but not very good. But I mean, if you're thinking about using MiniMax, you know, compare it to a model like Opus, okay? Opus costs what? I think it's like $30 per million on the input and then $75 per million on the output, right? I may be incorrect, but I think it's somewhere around there. You're going to have a pretty hard time making that make sense in your workflow when you look at models like MiniMax and say, well, this one costs 25 cents per million in a dollar for the output. It's a 70th of the cost pretty much. So that's definitely something to consider. It looks like it's importing hero icons. We'll see what it looks like here. Sidebar, so UI drop down. So hero icons, it's installing the package. That's nice. And then, something also that I'll touch on briefly is that a lot of you guys know that recently I just switched over to using Cursor pretty much completely. And I'll explain my thinking on that a little bit just in this video since it's been a while since I've talked about this on an actual YouTube video. But Cursor 2.0 is so good now that it, in my mind, replaces the need for some of the CLI tools. So because of the experience that you can have as a vibe coder and as a developer inside of Cursor with having an intuitive interface where, for example, you can have the browser and you can have browser dev tools inside of all of this, that does make a difference, okay? And to be able to integrate with any OpenRouter model that you want as well makes a difference. And Cursor has just really come to the forefront in my mind as the #1 vibe coding tool. And I know that it is expensive. For all of you wondering, I am on the Ultra plan and I do go over my Ultra plan limits. But with that said, you have to remember that when you compare the AI tooling costs for what a team of developers would have cost years ago, it makes way more financial sense to just invest the money into AI tooling instead of hire a bunch of developers. So that's just one consideration that I have, that even though my AI expenses are a little bit over $600 a month, it's like, hey, if I had a team of developers doing that, it would cost like thousands and thousands and thousands of dollars. So, it really kind of, highlights a little bit of, hey, you're just going to probably in the future be spending more money on AI, and it will get better, it will get cheaper, but MiniMax, definitely very impressed. Let's see the theme toggle, it's changing this stuff. I will say speed-wise, I would rank it somewhere, I would rank it probably a 4 out of 10. It's a little bit slow. And then in terms of one-shotting abilities, I would give it a 5 out of 10. So as you guys can see here, I have another refresh error here. Let's see if I can fix it just by running npm run dev again. But there we go. Okay. Whoa. All right. Let's see what it did. Let's see what it came up with. So it changed it up. Brand profiles, create, agents, platform tools. Wow. I love the hover effects that it did. The YouTube, Instagram, Facebook logos need to be the actual YouTube, Instagram, and Facebook logos. Fix this. So it did change. It did mess that up. I don't know if you guys see this, but let's just drop these divs in. And this is just such an amazing feature from Cursor to be able to drop in at the div level what this looks like. That is truly very, very powerful. Agents, connect socials. I like what it did. Create. It just used the hero icons library. So from a UI perspective, I would say pretty decent. We'll have to test it on stream today from the API perspective. But I could go all day long, guys. I'm going to keep using this off stream or off video. I'll be live at like 12 p.m. Eastern Standard Time today. If you guys haven't already liked and subscribed, make sure you do so. But yeah, definitely interested in using this MiniMax M2 model more just because of the price. And it's better than GLM 4.6. So we'll see how it goes. Hope you guys enjoyed the video, and I'll see you guys in the future.